Today's presentation is about growing mushrooms on hardwood, and our title is Growing Shiitake Mushrooms on Hardwood Logs. The idea is to empower small-scale farmers and woodland owners to be able to utilize the family forests. Most of the family forests are not utilized efficiently, and that's why we thought that this presentation can help to enlighten small-scale farmers on how they can utilize their forests. Our presentation outline include hardwood forest in Mississippi. We'll explain the coverage of forest in Mississippi. We'll talk about the shiitake mushrooms benefits as well. We'll talk about the shiitake mushroom facts. Timber stand improvement, meaning that how the woodland owners can manage their forest, producing some of the wood waste and utilize them for mushroom production. What type of trees are used for mushroom production? Selecting hardwoods from the hardwood, selecting hardwoods for mushroom production. We'll talk about the cultivation of shiitake mushrooms and how to salvage waste wood from harvested timber. When you harvest timber, you remove the stem, but all the tops are left in the forest. So a woodland owner can salvage some of the healthy logs and use them for mushroom production. As it is all business, any good venture has some problems. Log mushroom productions have some challenges, and we will discuss those as well. Mississippi is among the top 10 states in the United States with more than 65% of its land in forest. Timber is the second valuable commodity after poultry in Mississippi. Harvested wood and delivered to timber industry, total value was almost 1.1 billion. I'm sorry, 1.1 billion in year 2019. Hardwood treetops are considered as wastewood, and they all remain in the forest to be rotten by other fungi. However, those are the best raw material for mushroom production. Growing mushrooms on logs can be done by anyone, either like a hobby or like if one who wants to go to commercial business, he can grow mushrooms. And USDA consider any grower with 250 logs as a mushroom grower. So if you are growing either mushrooms on 250, USDA consider you as a mushroom grower. Landowners are not aware of the benefits and cultivation techniques for specialty mushrooms, and that's probably the reason why they are not utilizing their forest for that purpose. You can grow mushrooms or you can grow medicinal plants after removing the wood waste from your forest, because you'll have space under the shade of the trees and you can grow mushrooms and medicinal plants. So why are we discussing about mushrooms? Edible mushrooms are healthy food with medicinal properties. So it's another way of improving our health condition by eating mushrooms. And mushrooms can prevent chronic diseases. It is now known that all mushrooms, shiitake, oysters, portobello, truffles, reishi, they stimulate body immune system. So eating mushrooms is another way of improving our health by stimulating our immune system. Lentinan is an anti-tumor, anti-cancer that was isolated from shiitake mushrooms. Lentinan is now used to give the cancer patients who have undergone chemotherapy, and they improve a lot. Why do we have to wait until we go to hospital to be provided by Lentinan? Instead of eating the mushroom and prevent the chronic diseases, we don't have to wait until we are sick. So let's start eating mushrooms so that we can improve our body immunity. Mushrooms lower cholesterol. Mushrooms improve our microbiota. Every one of us have microbiota in the gut. Microbiota in our body improve our body healthy. They also they are responsible for metabolism. And when you eat mushrooms, they improve those microbiota in our guts. New studies have shown that mushrooms are responsible or they are anti-obese. And by eating mushrooms, it will help us to improve that condition. Other benefits include the vitamins. You have niacin, vitamin B1, 2, 6, and 12. And mushrooms are have dietary fiber. They contain 8 essential amino acids, a lower fat, lower cholesterol, and also shiitake are excellent source of copper, selenium, good source of zinc, and good source of manganese. Mushroom production can improve our food security and add to healthy balanced diet. So eating mushrooms will help us in improving our healthy condition. So shiitake and moringa are new crops in Mississippi that can diversify backyard farming, improve our healthy condition, and more, add additional income while waiting for timber trees to mature. As you can see, shiitake mushroom growing in log. These logs would have been left in the forest and been rotten by other fungi. But if you inoculate shiitake, you'll get the mushrooms and improve, use them for sale or for the family, whatever you decide to use those mushrooms for. This is just an example showing the benefits of shiitake and benefits of moringa. Moringa is a shrub or small tree which can grow all the growing season from spring to fall, and you can harvest a lot of leaves. Just need to dry the leaves, grind them, and use for your family. And if you have more, you can use them for monetary return. Right now, moringa is being sold in Walmart, and just a small half a pound costs up to 16 bucks. So you can grow your own on the backyard and you can get that benefit. As moringa, just 100 grams is 10 times vitamin A, 12 times vitamin C from orange, 17 times calcium from milk, 15 times potassium from banana, 25 times the iron from spinach, and more, 9 times from the protein you get from eating or consuming yogurt. So it is a win-win situation. Both, they can control chronic diseases. Moringa is anti-tumor, and also, as you can see here, it's talking about the lentinan, which we have already discussed. So what do we mean by timber stand improvement in family forest? This is how the condition is. If you look into our forests, most of the family forests, they just look like this. And the landowner just see that there is no benefit of keeping this forest. I'm not going to benefit this forest as it is. So they decide to dispose the forest. Land loss in Mississippi is a big issue. So many people are selling the forests just because they cannot benefit out of it. But if you do something in the forest, just do what we call crop tree management, meaning that reducing selected tree, young stop, overstop the trees, forests, remove all the wood waste like this one, all these others, as I will show you later. If you remove them, then you can use those wood waste for mushroom production. This is how the forest look like. What you need to do is just to go to the forest, select those trees which are straight. Those trees which are straight, leave them in the forest for timber industry. However, those ones which are crooked like this one, just mark it to remove it. If they are very close, mark it and remove one of them, leaving the other one. If they are broken at the top, remove them. And after removing those trees, this is how your forest would look like. You have removed the wood waste. Now you have open space for medicinal plants, or you can grow moringa under this area while you are waiting the trees, tree species to mature. Before releasing the forest, that's how the canopy was. There is no light which is penetrating into the ground, meaning that it is almost shaded, and therefore you cannot utilize that land for any other crop. However, if you release the forest, the wood waste, you will remain with more light going into the ground. For two things, it will help in inducing the seed bank seeds to grow, yet you can put your own seeds like moringa seeds and have enough moringa for the family and the like. So the facts about shiitake mushroom is Japanese #1 agricultural export. That small country is very rich, but #1 agricultural product is mushrooms. And guess what? All the mushrooms which are produced, almost 80% of it is sold to the United States. We have all the forests, but yet we are importing mushrooms from Japan. Shiitake is a native Japan, China, and Korea. Shiitake is the second most marketed and consumed mushrooms worldwide. The Eastern people, they have been growing mushrooms for more than 1,000 years ago. And where shiitake mushroom can grow? Shiitake mushroom can grow on logs. As you can see, this is a log. You just need to do some management, and as I will show you later, and grow them. Or they can be grown on sawdust blocks, or they can be grown on wheat straw. But before you select the seed or span to inoculate your material, you need to make sure that the span has the ability to colonize your material. They can produce good fruiting bodies, and they are resistant to other opportunistic fungi or competitors for the same material. So this is just showing a woodland owner who have decided to grow mushrooms. Just go to the forest, remove the hardwoods, bring them with your tractor to the location where you want to inoculate, and do the inoculation. So the trees which are good for mushroom production, especially shiitake, all oaks are good for mushroom production. Sweet gum does not have any commercial value in the forest. If you remove it, you are releasing the space for other activity. Not only that, you are releasing the nutrients for the timber trees to consume. Also, chestnut, elder, ironwood, beech, masowood, cottonwood, ash, and willow are best hardwood for shiitake mushroom production. So the sizes you need to cut when you want to grow mushrooms, you cut the log 40 inches length, diameter of 4 to 8 inch diameter. Cut the logs at the end of the fall or at the beginning of spring. That time is the time when at the end of the fall, that's the time when the trees shed their leaves, and the time when the sap is moving from the branches, moving into the roots over winter. And at the early spring, the dormant season, the time early spring is the time when sap is moving from the roots into the branches to produce new shoots. So that time is the time when the logs have a lot of sugars, a lot of nutritive values for the mushrooms. So cutting logs at that time, you have very good logs for mushroom production. The sapwood contain high sugar at that time. So after marking your logs, you cut them 2 weeks before the date of inoculating, but they should not stay longer. Once you cut them, make sure that you inoculate them before 2 months, because if you leave them more, then other fungi will colonize the logs. There are stages of cultivating shiitake mushrooms. As I said, the first thing is to select log selection. Select the hardwoods, which you need to remove from the forest, as I showed you earlier. Mark them and cut them into the sizes 40 inches or 4-inch diameter to 8 inches. You bring them to the location, drill the logs, as I'll show you later, and inoculate them with shiitake span. Span is the seed or mycelia or spores which you inoculate into the logs. After inoculating the logs, you need to seal with hot wax. The idea is you are covering the spores inside the wood, inside the log, so that they will not be contaminated by other opportunistic fungi. And then after inoculating, you take all those logs and incubate them under the shade. The forest can be a very good shade, can produce a very good shade for your logs. And then after that, then once they start fruiting, you harvest your mushrooms and market them as needed. This diagram shows the whole procedure. As I mentioned, you have to drill the logs from between each hole to another is 6 to 10 inches, and you stagger them in a diamond pattern. So you have a high power drill, 8,000 RPM, with a drill bit that has a stopper. So when you drill, it stops, drill, it stops. It does not drill far into the logs. And then after drilling the logs, as you can see the holes, the other group is inoculating, putting the spores in the holes. And after you have put the spore in the holes, then you seal the holes with hot wax. After you have inoculated your logs, you need to put a tag just to show the date when you inoculated, type of spores which you used, the tree species which you used for your mushrooms, because after some time, the color will not be the same and you will not recognize which was oak and which was sweet gum. So by putting a tag, it shows all the information when it's needed. So selecting a site for log incubation you need to remember 4S. 4S stands for source of clean water. If you don't have good source of clean water, please don't try to grow shiitake mushroom. You need shade. If you have a forest, then you have a shade. If you have a backyard, then you can have a shade. And if you don't have that shade, you can go to Lowe's and buy shade cloth, 70% shade cloth. They have it at Lowe's, and you can buy that one and put a shade on your backyard and incubate your logs in the area. You need a space and you need a slope, and we'll discuss that one later. So when I talk of clean water, water is crucial. You need to irrigate your logs for 3 to 5 hours by sprinkling. If you're close to the creek, you can soak your logs in the creek and remove them. So the first 10 weeks, meaning the first 2 months after inoculation, is very important because you need that fungus which you inoculated in your log to ramify the logs, therefore occupying the whole space, and other opportunistic fungi will not compete with the shiitake. So the first week is very important to make sure that the shiitake has colonized your log. Shade is very important because too much heat dry out the log and prevent the mycelia run. Also, it hinders the shiitake production because shiitake does not like sunlight. Space is for maneuverability. A quarter an acre can manage 200 to 500 logs. So if you are using machinery, you need to have space to move around your logs and pull them or move them into another space. So quarter an acre, you don't have to fill with so many logs. And the slope, it depends, it will help you in determining the size and arrangement of the logs on hillside, hill land use, a low staking is used for that location. This image just portrays how to salvage wood from the harvested area. After removing the timber, almost all the stumps can be used for mushroom production. You just buy the inoculum, drill at the edges, and the mushroom, the log will be bringing some moisture, and after some time, you will see mushroom growing on that log. If the dealer, the timber dealer, left some broken branches, just cut a V shape and pack the span or spores at that area, return the space, the V shape, hammer some nails to hold the span, and after some time, mushroom will be popping from those areas. If there are some billets which were broken, just drill a hole and pack the span on top, and mushrooms will be colonizing and decaying the wood. At the same time, you will be having some mushrooms growing from the area. I said irrigation is very important. So you have a farmer who has grown his mushroom, the logs are under the shade, and lucky enough, there is some water source. So what you need, you can just go to farmers co-op, buy the pipes, arrange them into your water reservoir. So you have a solar panel, which will charge your battery, and the battery will run the small water pump. The water pump will move the water from the creek or from the water source into your reservoir, and you will use that one to sprinkle your log. So this is a technique which can reduce the amount of money spent for irrigation, and the water which you collect, you will irrigate your logs. At the same time, you can use them for your vegetable or medicinal plants in your area. So after you have inoculated, you are managing your logs well, what you will see that the fungus is colonizing, you will see the white mycelia at the end of the log. As you can see the white mycelia at the end of the log. That's an indication, it's an indication that the fungus succeeded in colonizing your log and you have been doing well in irrigating your logs and managing your logs. If it is on a steep area, you arrange in this form so that they will not roll into the bottom of the hill. And the same, you will see the white mycelia at the end of the logs. Once you see the white mycelia at the end of the logs, what you need to do is to select the white, those logs with more colonization or more white color at the end, and induce them for mushroom production. How do we induce the mushroom production? To induce the mushroom production, you need a container like this one. You arrange those logs in the container, have a heavy staff holding the logs, and then fill the container with water. All the logs which you put in the container, they should be submerged, making sure that they are submerged with water. And you leave that one for 24 hours. After 24 hours, you remove the water and arrange them in a cabin style like this. So in the 3 days after soaking the logs, you will see the pinning and mushroom will continue to be produced. The 5th day, you will start seeing the big mushrooms. So what you need is to harvest those bigger mushrooms and preserve them in paper bag, put them in the refrigerator while you are waiting the other mushrooms to continue, and preserve them until you market them. So when you soak the log in the water, you are suffocating a living organisms which was in the, which was living in the log. So when you release that log, getting the oxygen again, oh, I was about to die before producing offspring. And then it will start to produce a lot of pinning, and they will grow into mushroom. Again, you need to irrigate your logs. You can use the sprinkler. And this is the cabin style arrangement. And we will see that again. So this is another type of arrangement, and you will see the mushroom are popping on your logs. The logs growing on sweet gum. This was a strain. We have west wind and wide range 46 span. And these can be bought from field and forest and other sources of span. They sell span. There are so many places where you can buy the span. So there are different types of arranging the logs. Once you have removed them from the tank, you can arrange it in a log cabin style, starting at the bottom, and then you cross, just making sure that you have a space where you can harvest your mushrooms. Another way to arrange your logs after removing them from the water is in a crisscross. Just put the wire between the trees, and you put the first log and then the other log, the way you see it crisscross, and the mushrooms will be growing, and you have a space to remove the mushrooms under the logs, or if it is on the top, but they'll be growing like the way you see it. Another arrangement is to arrange them. You have a big tree, and you can arrange the logs around that tree so that you have a space to remove the logs. So these are the way you can arrange the logs after you have removed them, you have soaked them for 24 hours so that the mushrooms will be popping on the logs. So in summary, this is the whole procedure. we say that collect the logs, and after you have collected them, drill the logs. Once you have drilled the logs, seed them or put the span in the logs. That's what we call inoculation. After you have sealed the logs, you incubate them under the shade for 6 to 8 months. The area in Mississippi, we have found that 4 months, the farmers, after 4 months, they start seeing the mushroom growing from their logs. So you incubate your logs, and then inducing the mushroom production, you soak the logs by submerging them in water for 24 hours. When you release them from the water, they will produce the mushrooms, and you harvest the mushrooms and preserve them until the time when you market. You should not wait for more than 5 days after you have harvested your mushrooms. And more so, make sure that they are in a refrigerator, in a paper bag, in a paper box, in a refrigerator, and then you take them to the market. After you have harvested your logs, then you return them into the incubation location, and you manage them again for 80 weeks. After 80 weeks, the same logs, you can submerge them again in water and get the mushrooms. We advise that if it is sweet gum, you can only resubmerge the logs in logs twice, only 2 times per growing season. If it is oak, then you can you can submerge them for 3 times. So you can harvest mushrooms from your log 3 times if it is oak, or two times if you are using sweet gum. The idea is sweet gum, the bark is so weak, when it gets too wet, it fall off. And when the bark fall off, then you cannot use it for mushroom. The other fungi will occupy it immediately. So, as I said before, every good venture has some problems. You have some of these problems also in mushroom production. If you irrigate your logs too much, you will see mold, trichoderma, growing and competing with your fungi. If you didn't irrigate the mushrooms well, you will see all these logs colonized with opportunistic fungi. You have Coriolis fungi occupying, and these logs which have aged very much, you have also have this opportunistic fungi occupying them. So don't irrigate too much. You will have the mold growing on your logs and competing with shiitake. Don't stop watering. Make sure that all the logs are irrigated well so that you avoid other fungi which can grow on dry wood to occupy the log and compete with shiitake. Other problems, including the beetles. They love mushroom like any other creature. You can see pleasant fungi occupying the mushroom, and they munch the whole mushroom. After 24 hours, you will see the mushroom is gone. Pleasant fungi, they love mushroom like any other creature. Recently, we discovered this type of beetle, also triplex beetle. It's also consuming shiitake. It was known to consume only oyster mushrooms, but we recently saw it on shiitake mushrooms as well. And we have other problem. We have the slug snails also consuming mushrooms. So to avoid this, you can either have a clean area, the area where you are growing your logs. Make sure that they are clean. Debris, remove the debris. And if you have a problem of the snail, then you can crush the eggshells around, put them around your logs, or you can have silver pasture, chicken, and mainly the ducks. If you have ducks, they will be consuming all this. So it's about control in a way, but at the same time, you have the chicken and they'll be grazing. They don't eat mushrooms. So they'll be removing all of the insects and you remain with your clean mushrooms. So that's what we have for today. And if there is any other question.
Well, Dr. Raymond, we thank you for a wonderful presentation. Due to time constraints, I do have at least a couple of questions I'd like to ask you before you take off. We do see this as being I guess like a new enterprise. So what you recommend this for an enterprise for a female or even for a student to be involved in agriculture to go into shiitake mushroom or mushroom growing in general?
As I mentioned before, this is a venture for anybody. Anybody can grow mushrooms on logs. If you have a home, you have a backyard. If you have a backyard, you have a space where you can grow mushrooms and have fresh food from your backyard. As I said, you only need a shade and water. If you don't have 3 shades on your backyard, just go to Lowe's and buy 70% cloth. Just put a shade and put your logs. So any person can grow mushrooms, students, farmers, woodland owners, small-scale farmers. You can grow the mushrooms for home consumption or for business.
Okay, one more opportunity. Could you give us a little more insight, I guess, for another minute clip and talk about the health benefits of shiitake mushrooms to being consumed?
So mushrooms are healthy food. As I mentioned earlier, when you eat mushrooms, you are preventing chronic diseases in our body. We have shown that there are so many material has been isolated from shiitake, and they are now used to give the cancer patients. Among them is the lentinan. Lentinan is now being used to give the cancer patients who have undergone chemotherapy, and they improve a lot. If you eat mushrooms, you are improving your microbiota in your stomach. Every one of us have microbiota. And the studies show that 2/3 of the microbiota in our stomach are common, but 1/3 is unique to each individual. I said it, 2/3 are common to every one of us, but that 1/3 is unique to each individual. Even if it is your son, your daughter, your parents, they have unique. And that's why when you have any outbreak of a disease, some, they get more problem and they encounter that it become more severe, and some do not. The Japanese have done a research and found that the people who were sick, they were given some microbiota from a healthy person and they recovered immediately, suggesting that the microbiota have a big role in our stomach. They improve metabolism, as I said before. And when you eat mushrooms, you are improving or you are diversifying your microbiota in your stomach.
All right, great. All right, one last question. In your presentation, you talked about growing mushrooms on logs and growing mushroom on sawdust bluffs. Which one do you think is more prevalent or easy to have access to for a person who's trying to get into it for the first time? Was it be logs or blocks or sawdust and so forth? Which one is easier to get started with?
Thank you for a very good question. And this is a very good question because if you are a beginner, my suggestion is go for what you have. Don't spend a lot of money trying to go into the blocks while you have the raw material on your backyard. You have material in your forest. Just go and harvest the hardwood logs, grow the mushrooms. Even if you have 10 logs or 20 logs, start with a small scale and learn the biology of shiitake, learn the biology of the mushroom. And once you get to know about that mushroom and get the market, take your mushrooms to the farmer's market sell them. And once you have your niche, your market, you can expand into 1,000 logs, or you can now invest on sawdust block. Sawdust block need a good investment because you have to have a controlled environment. You have to have a building. You have to improve all the conditions in that room so that you can increase the temperature, lower the temperature when you want to boost the mushroom production, and increase them the time when you want to produce the mushroom. So it is a controlled environment, which means you have to have a capital to start that business. My suggestion is grow the mushrooms on the wood waste, on the logs first, before you go into a big venture.
Okay, great. All right, one last thing, but Dr. Mrema, we're going to provide this presentation to the general public. Would you provide them your method of contacting you, your name, your title, maybe an email address, and your maybe office number so they can reach out to you if they have more additional questions?
Thank you so very much. My name is Frank Mrema. My telephone number is 601-877-6596. You can also reach me through a cell phone number, 601-532-0589. Thank you so very much for giving me this opportunity.
Yes, sir. Thank you.